The Grand Plaza Hotel's ballroom glittered with crystal chandeliers and Boston's elite, all dressed in their finest for the annual Children's Hospital Charity Gala. At $10,000 per plate, it was the social event of the season, a chance for the wealthy to show off their generosity while networking over champagne and lobster thermidor. I adjusted my simple black dress, a custom Dior that looked intentionally understated, and watched my stepfather Richard Anderson guide his latest trophy wife, my mother, to their prominent table near the stage. "Julia." Richard's voice carried that familiar note of disdain as he spotted me near the entrance. "I thought we discussed this. The kitchen staff entrance is around back." I smiled, thinking of the wire transfer I'd authorized just hours ago. $5 million from Phoenix Industries to the Children's Hospital, deliberately timed for maximum impact. "I have a ticket," I said quietly, holding up the envelope I'd purchased through my foundation. "Purchased by whom?" He arched an eyebrow. "These tables are by invitation only. For major donors and society members." My mother touched his arm, her diamonds catching the light. "Richard, perhaps we could find her a seat in the back." "Absolutely not," he cut her off. "What would the Worthingtons think? Or the Bradfords? We can't have her embarrassing us again." He meant last year's gala when he'd publicly accused me of trying to crash the event. He had no idea I'd been the anonymous donor that year too, quietly watching from the kitchen as he took credit for inspiring the $1 million gift. "The kitchen has a nice staff area," he continued, his voice dripping with fake concern. "You can watch the proceedings from there. It's more appropriate for your position." My position? As far as Richard knew, I was a struggling small business owner, running a modest consulting firm that barely broke even. He had no idea that Phoenix Industries, the mysterious corporation that had been buying up half of Boston's prime real estate, was mine. "Of course," I replied softly. "I wouldn't want to embarrass anyone." His face softened slightly, probably thinking he'd successfully put me in my place. "Good girl. Perhaps next year if your little business improves." I bit back a laugh, thinking of the documents sitting on my desk at Phoenix headquarters. The ones showing that I now owned the Grand Plaza Hotel, along with most of Richard's supposedly secure investments. As I made my way to the kitchen, I passed my stepbrother Todd, Richard's son from his first marriage. He was holding court among his usual sycophants, probably bragging about his latest, successful venture, funded, of course, by his father's connections. "Jules," he called out, his voice carrying that false warmth he used when he wanted something. "Still running that cute little consulting shop? You know, Dad might have an entry-level position open if you're ready for real work." I thought about the merger documents waiting to be filed, showing that Phoenix Industries had acquired controlling interest in Anderson Enterprises, Todd's supposedly successful company that was actually hemorrhaging money. "Thanks, Todd. I'm managing." He laughed, turning to his friends. "Managing, she says. That's one way to put it. Hey, did you drive that beat-up Honda here? Better park it around back. Wouldn't want it mixing with the Bentleys and Rolls." My beat-up Honda was deliberately chosen, just like everything else about my public persona. They had no idea about the fleet of luxury cars in my private garage, or the fact that I owned the parking company that managed the hotel's valet service. In the kitchen, the staff greeted me warmly. I'd made a point of getting to know them during my previous banishments to this area, learning their names, their stories, their struggles. They had no idea I was their real employer. I'd bought the hotel through a subsidiary last month. "Miss Julia," Maria, the head server, handed me a cup of coffee. "Back here with us again?" "Wouldn't miss it," I smiled, taking a seat at the small staff table. "Besides, the view is better from here." And it was. Through the service entrance I could see the entire ballroom. Watch Richard and my mother preening at their table, Todd networking with his father's connections, all of them so secure in their positions of power. My phone buzzed, a message from my chief of operations: "Transfer complete. Hospital has confirmed receipt of funds. Waiting for your signal to reveal donor identity." I checked my watch. In exactly 20 minutes, the hospital's director would announce this year's major donation. Richard, as head of the gala committee, would be on stage to express his gratitude to the anonymous benefactor, never suspecting that the person he'd banished to the kitchen was about to turn his world upside down. "Would you like some hors d'oeuvres, Miss Julia?" Maria offered. The kitchen made extra. Thank you, I said, accepting a small plate. And Maria? Remember what I said about keeping your resume updated? She nodded, confused. Yes, but why? Because tomorrow this hotel will have new management. And I think you'd make an excellent general manager. The gala reached its peak as Richard took the stage, resplendent in his custom tuxedo. He tapped the microphone, commanding attention with the practiced ease of someone born to privilege. Distinguished guests, he began, we gather tonight not just to celebrate, but to make a difference in children's lives. From my kitchen vantage point, I watched the audience nod appreciatively. The Worthingtons, the Bradfords, all the elite families who'd followed Richard's lead in shunning me over the years. They sat at their perfectly arranged tables, secure in their social hierarchy. My phone buzzed again. Another message from my team, hospital board reviewing the additional terms. They're thrilled about the new pediatric wing. Should we proceed with the name reveal? I smiled, thinking of the detailed plans I'd submitted with the donation. Not just money, but a complete renovation and expansion project. While Richard had been planning this gala, I'd spent months working with medical staff to understand exactly what the hospital needed. Ladies and gentlemen, Richard continued, I'm honored to announce that this year's gala has already secured a remarkable donation. $5 million from a generous benefactor who wishes to remain. I stood up, smoothing my dress. No, I called out clearly, stepping through the kitchen doors. I don't wish to remain anonymous. The ballroom fell silent. Richard's practiced smile froze on his face as I walked toward the stage. Julia, he hissed, what are you doing? Get back to the kitchen. Actually, I continued, my voice carrying across the now silent room, I think it's time everyone knew exactly who's making this donation. Todd started to stand, probably planning to have security remove me, but I caught his eye and smiled. Careful, brother dear. You might not want to make a scene right now. Ladies and gentlemen, I addressed the crowd, taking the microphone from Richard's stunned hands. I'm Julia Chin, CEO of Phoenix Industries. And yes, I'm the one donating $5 million to build the new pediatric wing. The silence erupted into whispers. Phoenix Industries, the mysterious corporation that had been making waves in Boston's business community. The company that owned half the commercial real estate in the city. The entity that Richard himself had been trying to partner with for months. This is absurd, Richard sputtered. Phoenix Industries is a multi-billion-dollar corporation. You run a small consulting. A front, I cut him off smoothly. A way to observe how people behave when they think they're dealing with someone powerless. It's amazing what you learn when people don't bother hiding their true nature. My mother had gone pale, her fingers clutching her champagne glass. Julia, darling, what are you saying? I'm saying, I turned to address the room, that while you've all been following Richard's lead in ostracizing me, I've built something far bigger than Anderson Enterprises could ever dream of being. Todd laughed nervously. Come on, Jules. This is ridiculous. Everyone knows Phoenix Industries is owned by me, I finished for him. Would you like to see the incorporation documents? Or perhaps you'd be more interested in the merger papers showing that Phoenix now owns controlling interest in your company. The whispers grew louder. Richard's face had gone from red to white. That's impossible, he whispered. We would have known. Would you? I smiled. Like you knew who bought this hotel last month? Or the country club you're so proud of belonging to? Or the majority of your investment portfolio? I nodded to Maria, who was watching from the kitchen doors. She pressed a button on a remote, and the ballroom's screens came to life, displaying a series of corporate ownership documents. You see, I continued, while you were all so busy looking down on me, so certain of your positions in society, I was quietly building an empire. One that now owns most of the properties and businesses you're so proud of being associated with. The room erupted into chaos as Boston's elite realized their world was about to change dramatically. Richard grabbed my arm, trying to pull me away from the microphone. You can't do this, he hissed. Think about your mother, about our family's reputation. I looked at him calmly, removing his hand from my arm. Family? Like when you made me eat in the kitchen at your wedding. Or when you told the hospital board last year that I was mentally unstable because I questioned your management of the charity funds. The Grand Plaza's ballroom had transformed from a pristine display of wealth and power into a scene of barely contained chaos. The Worthingtons were frantically checking their phones, no doubt verifying that Phoenix Industries really did own their shipping company. The Bradfords huddled in a corner, whispering about the real estate holdings they'd leveraged through Anderson Enterprises, holdings that were now effectively under my control. The donation, Richard tried one last time to regain control, his voice strained. Surely we can discuss this privately. As a family. Family. I raised an eyebrow. Like how you discuss things with me when you canceled my college tuition because it was wasteful to educate a stepdaughter. Or how you family discuss taking my inheritance from my father and investing it in Todd's failed ventures. Todd stood up, his face flushed with anger and fear. Those ventures weren't failures. We just had some temporary cash flow. Sit down, Todd, I cut him off. Unless you'd like me to share the real numbers with your investors. The ones showing how you've been misappropriating funds for years. My phone buzzed again. My team was ready with the next phase. Ladies and gentlemen, I addressed the room, my voice carrying clearly over the worried murmurs. You'll find that your phones are now receiving some interesting documents. Investment reports, ownership records, and detailed accounts of how Anderson Enterprises has been managing your money. The sound of notification alerts filled the room, followed by gasps and angry exclamations as Boston's elite discovered the truth about their trusted financial advisors. Julia, my mother stepped forward, tears in her eyes. Why go to all this trouble? Because you all needed to learn a lesson, I replied calmly. About judging people. About thinking wealth and social status make you superior. About treating others as beneath you. I turned to Maria, who still stood by the kitchen doors. Maria, please tell everyone your news. She stepped forward, nervous but proud. I've been appointed as the new general manager of the Grand Plaza Hotel. Miss Phoenix, promoted me this morning. The room erupted again. Richard's face turned purple. You can't give her that position. She's just a what? I challenged. Servant? Someone who belongs in the kitchen? That's exactly the attitude I'm talking about. I pressed a button on my phone, and the screens changed to show a new set of documents. Effective immediately, Phoenix Industries is implementing new management policies across all our properties. Merit-based promotions. Equal opportunity hiring. And, I smiled at Richard, a complete audit of all executive compensation and expenses. You'll destroy everything we've built. Todd shouted. No, I corrected him. I'm going to rebuild it. Properly this time. Starting with this hospital donation. I nodded to the hospital director who had been watching in stunned silence. The new pediatric wing will be named after Maria's daughter, who couldn't get treatment here 3 years ago because your charitable foundation denied her coverage. Maria's eyes filled with tears as she remembered her daughter's struggle, and how a mysterious benefactor had eventually paid for her treatment. The $5 million, I continued, is just the beginning. Phoenix Industries will be establishing a foundation to ensure that no child is ever denied care because of their family's social status or financial situation. Richard slumped in his chair, finally understanding the full scope of what was happening. His social empire built on exclusion and elitism was crumbling. Your memberships, I addressed the room at large, at the country club, the yacht club, all the exclusive venues that Phoenix now owns, they'll be reviewed. Not based on your bank accounts or family names, but on how you treat others. Especially those you think are beneath you. The message was clear. The rules had changed and the power structure they'd taken for granted was being dismantled. And Richard, I turned to my stepfather one last time, you might want to check your own accounts. Phoenix's forensic accountants found some very interesting transactions. The SEC will be particularly interested in how you've been managing the charity's funds. As security began escorting Richard and Todd out, not to the kitchen, but to meet with waiting federal agents, I thought about all the times they'd made me use the service entrance, eat in the kitchen, hide from their important guests. My mother approached, her carefully maintained composure finally cracking. All these years, while we thought we were the successful ones. Success isn't about showing off wealth or power, Mom, I said quietly. It's about building something meaningful. Something that helps others instead of excluding them. The next morning's headlines told the story. Phoenix rises. Kitchen banished heiress reveals billion-dollar empire. Anderson Enterprises scandal. Stepdaughter's revenge reshapes Boston society. From service entrance to CO, the most remarkable social coup in Boston history. But they missed the real story. This wasn't about revenge or even justice. It was about transformation of a hospital, of a social system, of an entire way of thinking about worth and dignity. Because sometimes the best revenge isn't in destroying what others built, but in building something better yourself. And sometimes, just sometimes, the person they banished to the kitchen turns out to be the one who owns the entire building. As I walked out of the Grand Plaza that night, Maria at my side, I heard the whispers following me. The elite who had once shunned me were now desperately trying to catch my eye, to establish some connection with the woman who controlled their financial fate. What happens now? Maria asked quietly. Now. I smiled, thinking of all the other properties Phoenix owned, all the other lives we could change. Now we show them what real class looks like. Not by excluding people but by lifting them up. My phone buzzed one last time. A message from Richard's lawyer, probably trying to negotiate some face-saving settlement. I deleted it without reading. Because the best revenge isn't served cold. It's served with kindness, with opportunity, with the chance to build something better than what came before. And as I drove away in my beat-up Honda, I couldn't help but smile at the thought of tomorrow's board meeting, where the kitchen staff would have seats at the table, and the former elite would learn what it means to truly earn their place. After all, power isn't about who you exclude. It's about who you choose to include.